Kids Church. Today we're going to be talking about a big topic of fear. I want you guys to take a moment and think of, what are you afraid of?
Now, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the dark. I did not like it to be dark because then I knew the monsters, they would come and get me from under my bed. Now, there were no monsters under my bed, but I believed that there were monsters there, and if I didn't keep my feet tucked in the blankets, then they were going to get me. Or I'd be afraid of spiders, that if anytime there was a spider, I'd run the other way and did not want to be anywhere near it. There's really no reason to be afraid of monsters or spiders, but I was afraid. What are you afraid of?
Go ahead and take a look at what some other people were afraid of when they were a kid, too.
As a kid, I was terrified of, we had like a laundry room, and I was always scared to go in there because the dryer would make weird noises and I thought it was a monster.
I was very scared of pizza. I was very scared of pizza because there were so many layers that I didn't understand. So like if I pulled the cheese up, I would back off and be like, what is that? So I didn't eat pizza until I was 10, and now I love it.
I was definitely afraid of getting my picture taken. I don't know why, but in every family picture, everyone had their faces and you can only see the back of my head.
I was always afraid of walking on the tiles, the grooves, because of the saying, step on a crack and break your mama's back. And I didn't want to break my mom's back, so I just made sure I always stepped on the tile and not the groove.
I was afraid that my toys would come alive like Toy Story did, and they would hang out in my room.
I was afraid of bananas because in TV shows you always saw characters slipping on banana peels and going to the hospital, so...
My biggest fear probably is of the unknown. I don't like taking risks because I don't know what's going to happen if I take the risk.
I'm scared of not fulfilling my potential. I know God's plan, but at the same time I'm scared I won't fulfill it. Living up to what I'm supposed to be doing.
I deal with that fear by studying God's word and being truly implanted in him and knowing who I am and identifying myself with him.
I try to get into a mindset of God already has everything planned out for me, and I just need to trust that instead of worrying about it all the time.
It makes me feel great. Anytime I just overcome a fear or do something scary, and whenever you do it, it just feels amazing. And I think fear is not always a bad thing. I think that if we're not getting scared every now and then we're probably not doing what God's called us to do. I think sometimes we got to find comfort in being uncomfortable.
I pray, and then I just go to my friends for encouragement so they can boost me and help me feel better.
I give it to God. I know that I did everything that I possibly could, but give it to God, move on.
Now, fear is something we have to deal with that can often keep us from doing things and be really controlling in our lives. We have to learn that we don't need to have fear. God asks us to give him control and to give him our fear.
Hello, Mr. Robot is here to help. What emotion is being discussed today?
Oh, hi, Mr. Robot. Today we're actually going to be talking about fear.
Affirmative. Mr. Robot knows all about fear.
What could robots possibly be afraid of? You're made of metal. What are you afraid of?
Magnets.
Magnets? The little things I stick on my fridge? Why are you so afraid of that?
You obviously have never been mistaken for a refrigerator. Just thinking about magnets makes Mr. Robot scared. Scared. Fear sensors overloaded. Activating self-destruct in 10, 9, 8.
No, Mr. Robot, take a deep breath. Calm down. It's okay.
Foolish human. Mr. Robot has no lungs. He cannot take a deep breath. Self-destruct in 5, 4, 3.
Please don't. There are no magnets around here. You're going to be perfectly fine. Nobody's going to think you're a fridge. Just calm down, Mr. Robot.
Self-destruct deactivated. Activating coping mechanism. I will be okay. I will be okay. I will be okay. Coping mechanism deactivated. Ooh, that is better.
Mr. Robot, God does not want us to fill our minds and our hearts with fear like that. Fear can cause us to make some really bad decisions, like the one you almost made.
Like the time Mr. Robot saw a magnet salesman and set him on fire with laser vision?
Oh my, yes, exactly like that. That was a terrible decision, and if you would have self-destructed, 1, you wouldn't be Mr. Robot anymore, you'd be gone, and 2, your choices affect other people. You could have blown up this whole building.
And that is a bad thing, right?
Yes, that is a bad thing. Letting fear control you is never a good thing. We need to learn how to say no to fear and yes to trusting God. Let's take a deeper look in today's lesson to see how we can handle fear in a good way.
Affirmative. That would be good. Mr. Robot no longer will be controlled by fear. Activating a new programming. Destroy all magnets. Destroy, destroy, destroy.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
Ah, yeah. What's up, everybody? It's me, the SKI to the double TLES. Skittles in the hizzy, and I'm ready to tell you what's up. I am so excited to be starting this brand new series called Emotions. Today, we're talking about how God is bigger than fear. So every time somebody asks you, what's up, you tell them. I don't have to be afraid. I'll put my trust in God. People are afraid of all kinds of stuff, like the dark. Hello? Anybody there? Mommy? People are afraid of mean dogs? No, puppy. Hey, no, step back. Don't bite me. Don't bite me. I like my ankles. And some people are even afraid of spiders. Hey, wait. Nobody brought no spiders in here, right? Ah! Sure, sometimes things are scary, but you don't have to be controlled by fear. You just keep your trust in God and know that He's right there with you. He will help you through all your fear. So anytime somebody asks you, what's up, you tell them. I don't have to be afraid. I'll put my trust in God. And that right there is what's up. I got a rainbow of flavor, and I'm living for my Savior. Skittles out, baby.
Have any of you ever watched a show on TV or a video on YouTube about building or construction? Well, I have the honor of being one of the hosts of the hit construction show Build It with my good pal Skip. Take a look at what happened while we were filming our latest episode.
Working with the excavator, working with the excavator, working with the excavator. Yeah! Beep, 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 beep.
Hey, Skip, what are you working on?
Oh, hey, Suze. I'm just working on the plans for an office I'm about to start building downtown.
Okay, so how's it going?
It's going great. Just finishing up the blueprints, like I always do.
Oh, really? You always do blueprints like this?
Yeah. It's not exactly to scale, seeing as how I'm working with Legos, but it always works out.
And what are you doing with that excavator?
Oh, I'm getting used to handling big equipment so that I'll be ready to tear down the old mill to prepare the new job site.
So you think that by practicing with this toy excavator, you'll be able to operate a real one?
Well, why wouldn't I? I thought you would want to help me. Want to give it a try?
Skip, you have got to be kidding me. There's no way that you or I can do this big of a job.
What are you so worried about? I was asked to do the job and I know what I'm doing. I've got everything under control. See the plans?
That's no plan, Skip. That's not an official blueprint. If this is the only plan that you've got, then there's so many terrible things that could happen to you, the builders, or the people that are gonna actually be in this office.
Calm down, Susie Q. My blueprint is just a scaled down representation of all the work that has to get done.
But you haven't included the important safety measures, like plumbing, underground piping, gas, and power. Skip, there is nothing about this building that will be built to code.
It's just fine. We'll be wearing our hard hats like we always do. Does that help you feel any better?
Not exactly. What if a big storm comes? With torrential downpour.
See? No worries. Still standing.
Oh yeah? What if strong winds come? From a huge tornado.
See? No worries. Still standing.
Well, what about a volcano erupting? And hot lava shooting everywhere.
See? No worries. Just a little cleanup, but still standing. As a matter of fact, a barrel of monkeys could attack the building site. And see? No worries. Still standing.
Oh man, those are some serious feelings we're dealing with here. I think there's something important we can all learn from that. Whenever we start to feel our emotions building up, we need to deal with how we feel, and here are 3 steps into doing just that. The first step is to stop and figure out how we're really feeling. This can be tough, but it's important because if we're not careful, we can let our emotions get the best of us. If that happens, things can seem worse than they actually are, which can cause us to make decisions that we can't undo. So let's stop right now and talk about the emotions we just saw. Skip wasn't worried at all about the big job he was working on, but I sure was. Some of the things we face are big and scary, and we can all worry sometimes. But worry starts in small ways and gets out of control in no time. And before we know it, we'll find ourselves scared of what might happen next. So now that we've stopped and figured out how we're feeling, the next thing we need to do is look at what's really going on. Some of the things worrying me were real, but the other things, like a barrel of monkeys falling from the sky, were a little out there. But if I would have looked at what was really going on, I would have remembered that I have no reason to worry. And that's because God has it all under control. I know that because I do my best to listen to what He says. And that's step number 3. Listen. We've got to listen to God's blueprint for life, the Bible. God gave us the Bible as the blueprint for us to deal with how we feel. Here, check this out.
Hey everybody, listen up. Here's what God has to say.
Has to say about what?
Well, I was just about to tell you.
Wait,
that...
is it good news or bad news? Like, good news as when we're having pancakes for dinner?
Pancakes? What are you even talking about?
Oh no! Is it bad news? As in velociraptors are prowling around downtown with laser beams coming from their eyes and they're stealing everyone's pants? So many pants! It's got me so worried.
Let me stop you right there. That's what our story is about.
About pants?
Ha ha, not pants. Worrying. There are so many things we can worry about, and God has something to say about it. So let's jump into our story about Gideon.
Gideon, my main man. But wait, what did he have to worry about?
Great question, and great place to start. So Gideon was an Israelite. The Israelites were God's chosen people. but they started to do some really bad things that upset him.
Oh, like cheating on tests and staying up past their bedtimes? That's like bad.
Oh, even really badder than that. They started to disobey God, so he let a mean group of people, the Midianites, rule over them. For years, they would attack the Israelites and destroy their crops.
Oh man, bullies who take your lunch money? Definitely lots to worry about.
Oh yeah, and this went on forever. Finally, the Israelites shouted out to God, asking for his help.
Time to throw up the bat signal.
Even though the Israelites had started worshiping false gods, the one true God heard their cries. He had an idea and was about to come through for them big time.
He was going to give them a shrink ray gun so they could turn the Midianites into little baby ants. Now that's an idea.
Oh, it's an idea, all right. And that's where Gideon comes back into the picture. Gideon, who was hiding while separating the wheat they used for bread, was worried that if the Midianites knew he had food, they would take it. That's when God sent an angel who said to Gideon,
"Mighty warrior, God is with you."
Gideon did not feel like God was with them and asked the angel about all the bad things that were happening. That's when God himself spoke to Gideon. He said, "You are strong. Go and save Israel from the power of Midian. I am sending you."
Well, I guess it doesn't get much more clear than that, right?
Well, you'd think so, but Gideon was still worried. He wondered why on earth God would choose him to go save everyone. It's not like he came from a strong family. Gideon didn't feel important at all. God reassured Gideon that he would be with him, but Gideon needed a sign. So he asked God to stick around for a minute while he prepared an offering.
I'm sure God didn't mind waiting since he's got all the time in the world.
Gideon whipped up some bread and goat stew, brought it back, and placed it on a rock. That's when the angel touched it with a stick, and the whole thing went up in flames.
Flaming bread, and flaming stew, and flaming rocks.
There weren't any flaming rocks, but Gideon did make an altar there for God. And speaking of altars, that same night, Gideon snuck around.
Like a ninja dressed in all black, throwing ninja stars at the other altars, and slicing a pole in half using a samurai sword.
Gideon didn't have ninja stars or a samurai sword, but he did destroy the altar and pole his family had used for worshiping false gods.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Gideon did all this at night because he was afraid and worried that his family would be very angry with him. When the townspeople saw what Gideon had done, they wanted him to pay for it. But nothing bad happened to Gideon.
Sounds like that was a close call.
It sure was. A little while later, the Midianites started moving in for another attack, and it didn't take long for Gideon to start worrying again. He knew God had promised to use him to save Israel and all, but he needed another reminder.
What did Gideon have in mind? It's not like God could just shoot him a text.
Yeah, no cell phones, but Gideon did have an idea. You see, dew would form overnight and make the ground, as well as everything else around it, wet. So Gideon left a piece of wool on the ground overnight and asked God to make the wool wet from the dew, but leave the ground dry.
Wet wool, dry ground, check.
Sure enough, God did just that. But Gideon still wasn't sure and asked God if he'd do just the opposite the next night.
Okay, so dry wool and wet ground. Got it.
When Gideon woke up the next morning, that's exactly what he found. The wool was dry, but the ground around it was covered in dew.
Please tell me Gideon trusted God this time.
Gideon was now confident that God wanted him to fight the Midianites. He knew that the Lord thought he was good enough to do the job. So Gideon decided to stop worrying, trust God, and do exactly what God wanted him to do.
So the next time we find ourselves worrying about anything,
we can trust God.
Today, I'm going to take on a challenge. I'm going to try and hold up as many books as possible. Here we go. All right, come on. Give me another one there. Yep, no problem. Wow, these are really, really heavy books. Oh gosh, they're pretty heavy. I'm not kidding, they're heavy. I don't know how much more I can hold of these books. All of our fears and worries can begin to weigh on us and pile onto us if we don't look to other people to help us out with them, if we don't rely on God to get us through them. And I know a lot of us here, we have a lot of worries that we deal with. Well, I want to show you what happens when we allow our fears and our worries and our anxieties to pile up in our lives.
We worry about school, if we're gonna get good grades. And we pack that in and we hang on to that and we're worried about it. We worry about our family situations and what's gonna happen. And we pack that in and it just gets heavier and heavier. And we worry about the situation that we have going on with our friends. Is that gonna work out? Is it not? I have so much anxiety about that. And we worry about our futures and like what we're gonna end up and what we're gonna do with our lives. And we pack that in and it just gets heavier and heavier. And everything that we worry about and we try to deal with on our own just packs in tighter and tighter and heavier until we can't handle it anymore. And so we go through life with our fears and our worries, and we just walk around with them like, I'm good, everything's great, life's fine. But the reality is, we have all this stuff that we're holding on to.
And so we need to learn to let those go, to drop them, to put them down, to let people help us out. But ultimately, we need to learn to give our worries and our fears over to God and allow Him to help us out. Look at what it says in the Bible. In Psalm 55:22, it says, "Pile your troubles on God's shoulders. He'll carry your load. He'll help you out." We need to give it all over to God because God can handle the weight of all your fears, worries, and anxieties. We need to pile it on His shoulders and He will get us through. And then lastly, I want to leave you with this. It says in the Bible, in Joshua 1:9, God says this, "This is my command. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." When you know and understand that verse, the next time something happens in your life that brings about fear in you or worry or anxiety, you can stand strong and know, I got this. There's no big deal with this. I'm not afraid, because you know and understand that God is with you wherever you go, and He will be the one to help you with all the fear that you have in your life.
Good morning. In our Bible story today, in Judges chapter 6, we are going to meet a man named Gideon. Now, Gideon was a farmer, and one of the jobs that he had was to thresh the wheat. Some of you may know what that is, but I have peanut here, and if we crack the peanut open, oh, this one doesn't want to go. Here we go. We crack it open, and inside are our peanuts, and then we have our shell, or our husk. For wheat, it's the wheat and the chaff. And that was Gideon's job. So he was supposed to be threshing the wheat, separating the good stuff from the bad stuff. Now, usually to do this, they had a place called the threshing floor. Well, Gideon was threshing his wheat in the bottom of a wine press. That's kind of a weird place to do it. But he was hiding. He was hiding from the Midianites. Now, the Midianites were the enemies of God's people, the Israelites. And the Midianites would come and they would attack all the farms and they would steal the crops and the food. So Gideon had a good reason to be afraid. So just like Gideon, I think we've all maybe had a time when you were afraid and all you wanted to do was run away and hide. I think we all have had that experience or felt like that. So in today's story, here we go. All of a sudden, an angel of the Lord appears to Gideon and says, "Mighty hero, go rescue Israel from the Midianites." Mighty hero? Why would the angel call him a mighty hero? That doesn't make sense at all. Gideon is not a mighty warrior. He's a scaredy cat hiding in a wine press. This doesn't make any sense. But that's not where the story ends. Gideon responds to the angel. He says, "I am the weakest in my family. How can I rescue Israel?" I think most of us would agree with Gideon. He sure was acting like he was the weakest in the family. He was hiding out in a wine press so he wouldn't be seen threshing wheat. Gideon isn't the only person who has ever been afraid. You and I can get pretty scared. Sometimes we face difficult times in life, and all we can feel is fear. Just like Gideon, we probably feel like there is no way we can do what God is calling us to do. But something incredible happened next. The angel said to Gideon, "God will be with you." Wow! The reason Gideon didn't need to be afraid was because God was with him. Do you know, that's the same reason that you and I don't need to be afraid. When you have the Lord as your shepherd, you can know that He will always be with you. In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to handle fear. One of the most famous verses in the Bible is found in Psalm chapter 23, verse 4. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid. The rest of this verse talks about the Good Shepherd and how he takes care of his sheep, us. That is the reason we don't have to worry or be afraid. Now let's take a look at some baby sheep.
We are here with my friend Janice at Cockles Country Critters. Janice, I have a couple questions for you. What have we got here?
This right here is one of our twin baby sheep. They were orphaned, and I have a really good friend that brings me all of her babies if the mom won't take them. So actually these two are twins. They're part cantata and part woolly sheep.
And how old are they?
They are about 2 weeks old. They love their bottles, and this is actually a little baby goat that we picked up that the mom abandoned him as well.
How big will they get whenever they're full grown?
These sheep will get about probably, 2-3 feet tall. They'll stand about this high.
Okay. And what is it that they usually eat?
This is their milk bottles. They get about 3 to 4 of these a day. And they love them. And they're ready for them.
I can see that.
You want to feed?
Oh, yeah.
It's really easy.
Hey peeps, what's up?
Verse in Psalms 23 tells us that we are like sheep, and God is telling us that we will face a lot of troubles, we'll face fear, we'll face doubt, and we'll face dark valleys. Find ourselves in a dark and hard time. We should remember what Psalms 23:4 says. It says, "Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid." Did you notice that important word, through? God isn't saying before you get scared, or after you get scared, or before a bad thing happens, or after a bad thing happens, you'll be okay. No, He's saying all the way through, you're going to be okay because He is with you. We won't be in the valley forever, and while we are in that dark and hard time, we have the Good Shepherd leading us through.
Let's look at a few reasons why we don't have to be afraid when going through the valley, because we have Jesus with us.
Psalm 23:4 says, "Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me." This is what a shepherd's rod looked like. It was a weapon. The shepherd used it to swing against lions, bears, and other wild animals that would try to come and attack and eat the sheep. The shepherd used his rod to defend and protect the sheep. God protects and defends us against our enemy, the devil. God is more powerful than any sickness, disease, bully, sadness, or other issue or problem that the devil would try to attack us with. The reason we don't have to be afraid when we walk through the darkest valley or when we're having a hard time is that God will protect us also. Also, the Good Shepherd uses his staff to bring us closer to Him. Psalm 23:4 says, "Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me." The rod protects, but the staff comforts. The staff has a curved end because the shepherd would use it to reach out and gently grab the sheep's neck to pull it close to the shepherd. When the sheep would get scared, the shepherd would pull them close to comfort them. That reminded the sheep of something that each one of us must remember. We don't have to fear. You are never alone.
You don't have to fear even when you go through the darkest, scariest, and most difficult times in life, because God, our good shepherd, is always with us. Like baby sheep, we need someone to take care of us, and God does take care of us. He never leaves you. As we offer it to God and let Him give us peace instead of fear. Dear Jesus, we thank you that you are with us. We thank you that you never leave us, that your rod and your staff comfort and guide us. We don't have to be afraid of anything because you are bigger than everything. You are bigger than spiders, you are bigger than sharks, you are bigger than monsters, you are bigger than anything we could possibly be afraid of. And that's why we can trust you. You promise to always be with us, and we thank you so much. God, the thing that we're afraid of, the scary thing that we're worried about, and how we finish up our prayer is just by lifting our hands and saying, thank you, God. You are always with us, and you give us courage, bravery, and so much love, more than we ever could deserve. We praise you and thank you, and in your name say, Amen.
Hey peeps, what's up?
Gideon was so worried about how it would all turn out that he forgot God was with him and had a good plan all along. God was patient with Gideon and kept reminding him that he was made with a great purpose. That's when Gideon's worries stopped and his trust in God started. Gideon learned that he can really trust God, and we can too. The next time we find ourselves asking, what if, and worrying, we can stop, look, and listen to the truth of God's word. Doing these things will help us stop the worry and see that God will never leave us. He wants what's best for us, and because of that, we can trust Him. Now there's one more way to deal with all of your feelings, and that's to worship God by singing. So let's do it!
You know when I'm lonely, you know when I'm sad, I know. And then you are with me, yeah, you are with me. You know when I'm worried, you know when I'm mad, I know. And then I can trust you, yeah, I can trust you. You don't want perfection, you just want my best. And when my mind is racing, you will give me rest. God is greater, greater than my feelings. He knows everything, He knows everything. God is greater, greater than my feelings. He knows everything, He knows everything. You know when I'm lonely, you know when I'm sad, I know. And then you are with me, yeah, you are with me. You know when I'm worried, you know when I'm mad, I know. And then I can trust you, yeah, I can trust you. You don't want perfection, you just want my best. And when my mind is racing, you will give me rest. God is greater, greater than my feelings. He knows everything, He knows everything. God is greater, greater than my feelings. He knows everything, He knows everything.
You You are greater than all I feel. You know it all and you always will. I trust in you with all that I've got. Doesn't even matter if I feel it or not. You are greater than all I feel. You know it all and you always will. I trust in you with all that I've got. Doesn't even matter if I feel it or not.
God is greater than my feelings. He knows everything. He knows everything. God is greater than my feelings. He knows everything. He knows